Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Oriveti OD100, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Oriveti for providing the OD100 for review. To greatly appreciate it, Oriveti, you rock. Alright, so the Oriveti OD100, this will set you back $70 from your bank account. It has a 9.2 millimeter DLC dynamic driver, 16 ohms of impedance, 105 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. The OD100 comes in a pretty basic box. You get this gray box with some branding on the front, some specs on the back. Taking off the sleeve, you're greeted by another black box with some branding. And then taking that sleeve off, you're greeted by another box that says, "The path to inspiration through music. The path through..." Let me read that again. "The path to inspiration through music." There we go. Lifting that up, and you get an area for a carrying case and some accessories. All right, let's set this all to the side here. The accessories that you get a carrying case with a little bit of Oriveti branding. Nice hard shell. This is definitely going to protect your gear and fit into a bag very easily. Pocket for some accessories and a little bed for your IEM to sit in. And then Oriveti included 3 types of tips. You get foam tips, small, medium, and large. You get a kind of grape-shaped gray tip, small, medium, and large. And then you get a black tip, which is a little bit more shallow, and it's wide bore, small, medium, and large. I preferred the wide bore tip. The gray tip and the foam tip added in some bass. I found that the foam tip tamed the lower mids and the upper mids and lower treble regions. It tamed that just a little bit and kind of dulled the details and resolution and kind of made it a little bit more lackadaisical type of sound signature. But also at the same time, it was a little bit bloated in the bass at times and a little bit one-notish. The gray tips also added in more bass, and it was a little bit more bloated and one-notish at times. But the lower mids were a little bit more recessed, and the upper mids and lower treble regions were a little bit more elevated, and it became a little bit more expressive, borderline aggressive at times. So I went with the wide bore tip, which kind of balanced all that out. Even though you lost just a little bit of bass impact, you did get a little bit of air and space throughout, and it was a little bit more even through the mids, and the upper mids and lower treble regions weren't as aggressive and expressive. So the OD100. Very small. Very similar shape to a Tin Hi-Fi T2. Very lightweight. Not much of an angle, and the nozzle is long enough. Connects with a 2-pin. The cable is very nice. It has just enough of tension in the ear hooks. Could use just a little bit more, in my opinion. Then you have a nice split with a cinch that stays in place, and it terminates into a 3.5. The termination is slightly big, but not too bad. Did fit all my sources, and there's a little bit of Oriveti branding on it. The isolation of outside noises is actually really good, along with the comfort. I found that they just snug in your ears and disappear. As you can see, they're just extremely small. I could wear these for hours upon hours. And then several times I completely forgot that I had them in. So they are extremely comfortable and just very small. And it didn't matter which tip I had. They just fit me very, very well. Isolation of outside noises, probably somewhere 66-70% of outside noises being blocked. You definitely will have to take these out in order to carry a conversation on with somebody. And especially if you're using foam tips. And also I found that they blocked out noises pretty well around the house. The only things I was really able to hear were loud things like garbage disposals, vacuum cleaners, and coffee grinder. And then going around the neighborhood, loud vehicles was about the only thing I was able to hear. So they do a very good job of blocking out outside noises. The Oriveti OD100 is very easy to drive. I find that all of my dongles, DAPs, and desktop were able to drive them. No problems whatsoever, and they are extremely pleased on whatever they have in their ears or they're plugged into. And my ears go, hey, they're happy. They're playing music. I have no issues, no hissing, nothing like that. The OD100s are just glad to be able to please your ears. So no sources had any issues. How do the Oriveti OD100 sound? So the Oriveti OD100 has a bass that is fun focused. It's very much mid bass focused. The sub bass is slightly rolled off. Every now and then you get a little bit of rumble and grumble, but for the most part, it's a mid bass focused bass that really gives you some punch and slam, especially if you use the foam tips or the gray silicone tip. You're going to get more bass presence. The OD100's bass has a decent amount of texture and very good tone and timbre. Everything sounded the way it should, and I had no issues being able to pick out instruments and everything else that lives down there in the bass regions, and be able to decipher what it was and be able to enjoy it. The Oriveti OD100 gives you this just fun factor. Your toes are going to be tapping, your hands are going to be moving around if you're air drummers, and it's just an engaging bass with good tone and timbre and enough texture and enough just presence to really keep everything engaging and moving. And then the mids. The mids have good tone and timbre, and they have a very expressive but not fatiguing presentation. I find that the note weight could be slightly better. It is a little bit thin, especially in the lower mids. And then as you get into the upper mids, there is some elevation. And at times, some instruments like woodwinds, brass, and strings can sound a little bit thin. But it's not off-putting, and it doesn't throw off the whole thing. If you go through the if you go up through the octaves, it's not going to sound odd. You just will notice that it's a little bit thinner here and there. But for the most part, it's a very nice, pleasing mid. Vocalists kind of take center stage. They always seem to have the spotlight, and instruments kind of are in the background just a little bit. But overall, it's a very pleasing and engaging mid that has nice tonality, good tone and timbre. And then the treble. The treble has a little bit of emphasis, just like the mids do in the upper mids. The treble has some emphasis in the lower treble, and it's a little bit expressive, but doesn't really go into fatigue mode. It's just a little bit much there at times. I did find that with the gray silicone tip, that was a little bit more expressive. So depending on what you are looking for in your music, if you like a little bit more expressive upper, mid, lower treble region, you might want to use the gray tip. If you want it to be a little bit more balanced and a little bit more cohesive, I would use the wide bore tip. And then if you want it to be a little bit more tame, ho-hum, I would use the foam tip. But overall, the treble is slightly rolled off in the upper treble regions. It's not a severe roll off, but it is a little bit less, and so you don't have quite as much air and space, and you don't get as much expressiveness in the uppers, and at times things can sound a little bit dull. But for the most part, the treble has good tone and timbre. Overall, I find that the bass, the mids, and the treble of the Oriveti OD100 is just a fun and engaging listen, and it's just very enjoyable, and it doesn't really fatigue you, even though it is a little bit expressive depending on what tip you used. Soundstage is intimate. This is a very small stage. It's going to make you very comfy, and you're going to feel very close. And at times that can be a little bit disconcerting, especially when you know that tracks are larger and wider, and it just kind of forces things in a little bit smaller than they should and makes you feel a little bit more comfy. Doesn't have the best in depth. It's not It's not terrible at depth, but you really can't read into a stage beyond just a little bit, like one row in. So layering is okay, but at times can get a little bit muddled and confused on busier tracks, and bass can become a little bit one notish. Imaging is very good within the limited space that it has. You can really track things, and you definitely know it's on the right side or the left side, and you definitely know that the vocalists are in the center. It always puts that spotlight on the vocalists. There's a good amount of tracking ability, and you can place things right and left, and you can it it's not precise, like right there, but it does a good enough job of saying it's right in this neighborhood. Detail retrieval and resolution is okay for its price point. It's not going to set the world on fire with the abilities of bringing in new details for every track that you listen to, but you're also not going to be missing anything. Resolution is all right for its price point. Every now and then, it'll get a little bit one notish in the bass, and it'll get a little bit harsh and just a little bit glassy up top. And then tone and timbre is pretty close to natural, except for those elevated upper mids and lower treble regions. It'll throw off some instruments every now and then. Strings, woodwinds, and brass instruments were the most noticeable. So overall, I really do like the OD100. It's a very fun and engaging listen, and it's just something a little bit different. Also, I like the fact that you can change the tune a little bit, so to speak, with the different tips. How does it compare to a couple other IEMs? Well, first we have the DUNU Titan S. Now, the DUNU Titan S has better natural tone and timbre. It's going to sound more accurate with instruments and vocalists. Also has a little bit more fullness in its note weight. Bass extends a little bit better into the sub bass, but you don't have as much impact and slam as you do in the mid bass of the OD100. And the treble is extended a little bit better, and you have a little bit more air and space. And the OD100 is slightly more elevated in the mids. They are a little bit more forward, putting more of a spotlight on the vocalist. Soundstage wise, the DUNU Titan S is wider and more accurate of venue changes, and also has a deeper stage, and you can see into the stage a little bit better, and it is a little bit better detailed and resolving. And then you have the Kotori Dauntless, and the Kotori Dauntless also has better, more accurate tone and timbre, and more natural tone and timbre. The bass is a little bit heavier hitting on the Dauntless. It does extend a little bit better into the sub bass, and you have a little bit more details and resolution in the bass. It's a little more controlled with authority on the Dauntless. The mids are a little bit more neutral sounding, but yeah, at the same time more natural with its tone and timbre. And then the treble is more extended, more airy. Detail retrieval is about the same between the OD100 and the Dauntless, but resolution is better on the Dauntless. And then the soundstage is wider, has better depth and more accurate layering with the Dauntless. So the OD100, I like this. It's a fun, engaging listen. Coming in at $70, you get a very well-built IEM, very small, isolates well. You can change different tips, and it can alter the sound a little bit. And also, it has a fun, engaging bass with very pleasurable mids and a slightly forward spotlight on vocalists with a non-fatiguing treble. So overall, I like the OD100, and I recommend it for something a little bit different. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information on there regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It is much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please keep in mind that all funds given to the channel do go back into the channel. And also, there's various ways that you can support the channel through one-time gifts through PayPal, Venmo, and buying me a coffee, or through monthly subscriptions with Patreon and YouTube memberships, and you can get access to my private Discord servers and other benefits. So check out those links if you're interested in supporting the channel. And then also there's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can learn what my gear recommendations are and music recommendations. There's gear rankings and all kinds of other things listed down below, so check out those links. And then lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.